Okay, well, we are here. We are virtual. Let's get into the headlines, shall we?
Yeah,
Hello and welcome to Any Given Sunday Headlines Edition. Week 16. It was a very interesting week in the NFL. We had kind of a rough prediction slate. I had a rough prediction slate. I went sub 500 for the first time in a long time. Both of us went sub 500 for the first time in a long time. And the biggest headlines of the week both surround the Chiefs. They are officially out of playoff contention with 3 weeks left in the season. They lost to the Chargers. It is a season sweep for the Chargers. And Kansas City's out of it.
yeah. I mean, it's the first time that the Chiefs have been out of it in the Mahomes era. I mean, since I believe it was since the 2015 Broncos was the last time that the Chiefs were in the AFC West division holders, and in this case, they're not even in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and that hasn't happened in a decade. Um, so this is a first for probably a lot of the players that on that team that have been drafted since then. I know Chris Jones. I don't know if you saw the press conference, but Chris Jones was not happy about it.
He didn't even
Um,
know they were eliminated until one of the
yeah,
reporters told him, which is insane. How do you
I mean,
not? I mean,
when
we talked about this with um, I want to say it was a Browns team a couple years ago, or no, it was the Ron Rivera Commanders, where during the year that Carson Wentz was in Washington, they didn't know. How is that possible? How is it possible that you don't know you can be eliminated from the playoffs?
well, I mean, when you've been that dominant for that long, it's probably not even considered a possibility. Just because that's how high the standard has been in Kansas City. Um, and when you're one of the star players, it's probably not even in your head that you could not be playing football in February.
Yeah, it's insane, and obviously, and this is our second major headline. Well, the second major headline is about injuries in general, but Mahomes tearing his ACL doesn't help. That is a crucial and bitter injury at the end of a season of nightmares for the Chiefs. Um, I have to wonder how much the Chiefs are going to compete in the last couple of weeks. Not necessarily that, Mahomes is the entire reason they were winning, but he was a pretty big part of it this year.
I think especially this season where a lot of the offensive weapons were injured early on. Mahomes played a huge part in keeping them in games early in the season. But from at least from that one drive that we saw of Gardner Minshew against the Chargers, it didn't look completely lifeless to me.
Yeah,
So I mean, I feel like it's unfair to say that they're going to get blown out every game for the rest of the season. That's just not going to happen. The Kansas City Chiefs are still a very competent football team. They're still a very good coaching staff. They're still one of the best franchises in the league. So I feel like they're still going to be competitive, and they might actually be able to pick up a few wins without Patrick Mahomes.
well, and the question is how many. There are 3 games left on the schedule. The Chiefs. I'm going to pretend that I had this pulled up already. The Chiefs have the Titans this week, the Broncos next week, and the Raiders in Week 18. It's not unreasonable to see them going 2-1 in that stretch, but organizationally, is it better to try to park the bus at 6? Because
Absolutely.
if you're an 8-win team, you're probably picking between 14th and 17th in the draft. But if you're at 6 wins, there's an outside shot. You're in the top 10.
Yeah, and a top 10 pick for this team could mean a lot because, I mean, if you look at the rosters that they had maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think it's pretty much a consensus that those rosters were better. Those rosters were a little bit more well-rounded. They were stronger. This Kansas City team could use a top pick to maybe go out and finally get a true pair to George Karlaftis.
Yeah.
And that would be huge for this defense. So, I mean, obviously, when you're not in the playoffs, you'd like to have the highest pick possible. But frankly, and obviously we'll talk about this with the coming weeks, I don't think that it's going to be as high as they'd like it because of their remaining schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, we can probably comfortably pencil in a loss to the Broncos next week. But other than that, I mean, they're on the road for 2 of their last 3 games, and they're the 2 easier games. Maybe that'll factor in. I don't think the crowd in Vegas is going to do anything. We'll talk about Vegas when we get there. But
yeah,
it's...
I mean, other than Mahomes suffering that ACL tear, putting him out for the season, and potentially a little bit of the first couple weeks of the 2026 season, Micah Parsons was also a huge name that got injured this week. I believe his status is also out for the season.
He also tore his ACL. So that was 2 superstar players in 1 week. And
Micah Parsons makes a huge difference for the Packers defense.
It makes a huge difference in the NFC playoff picture, right? We haven't seen the Packers and the Rams play. I would have already felt comfortable chalking that up to a Rams victory. And now it's just the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know, man. If Jordan Love disappears in the playoffs, which he has in their losses, now the defense won't be there as much to bail him out. And let's not pretend that the rest of the Packers defense isn't still excellent. Right? The Packers still have an excellent defense without Micah Parsons. But you are losing a 10-plus sack player at the worst possible time. Their chances at the 1 seed seem to have flown out the window.
I mean, it feels to me right now, it feels like the 1 seed is going to come out of the NFC West. It's going to be whoever is the team to come out on top of the division is probably going to be the team with the 1 seed. Kind of similar to what we saw from a little bit similar to what we saw from the NFC North last season with the Vikings having 13 wins and being the 5 seed. But the other crucial NFC injury, which unfortunately, especially for me, the status is a little bit better, was that Davante Adams had re-aggravated a lingering hamstring injury that he's been dealing with over the last couple of weeks. He kind of not re-injured it, kind of overextended his hamstring. Fortunately, though, it wasn't the MRI didn't find anything torn, and he's currently considered being week to week. I don't imagine he'll play this Thursday, or maybe even next week, but I'm sure he'll be there come playoffs.
Well, and the trouble with hamstring injuries is, obviously it is not anywhere near as severe as, an ACL tear, and it's very, very good that they didn't find anything torn. But hamstring injuries, especially for receivers, can just kind of linger. Like we saw Lamar Jackson, he was only supposed to be out 3 or so weeks, and I think he ended up being out 5 earlier in the season with a hamstring injury. A.J. Brown suffered a hamstring injury in week 3 of last year and was out until week 6. And the Rams, as of this moment, are still very likely to secure the 1 seed. And if they win on Thursday, the NFC is their conference to lose. That being said, if they lose on Thursday, Seattle now has the 1 seed in the NFC and opens the door for a much tougher road for the Rams, because now they have to play on the road in the first week of the playoffs and potentially be missing Davante Adams, their huge red zone threat, while they do so.
Yeah, obviously I'm excited to see what happens on Thursday. I'm excited to watch that game. It does kind of feel like the stakes are that high, where it's not just for the division, it's for or the difference between being at home every single game in the playoffs or having to go on the road most likely for all of them. But we will see how that shakes out on Thursday. I'm excited to watch it. I'm sure you are too. And on to our last headline, we had a man who didn't play football for 5 years come back and put together a somewhat respectable performance, all things considered. And almost secured a win.
Yeah, which is crazy considering he was up against Seattle. But Phillip Rivers, they were talking about it a lot on the broadcast, hadn't played football in 1,800 days. And oh boy, did we all miss watching his weird-ass release. I don't know what he's doing. I have a football here. I don't know what this is as a release strategy, but fuck it, man. It was fun to watch. I'm going to spoil our weekly awards here. I picked Phillip Rivers for our chart of the week. He only threw one pass north of 20 yards, and it was intercepted. And it was the interception that killed the Colts' chances at a comeback. But he was spreading the ball around pretty decently. There were a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage or within 10 yards of it. But he looked solid. You know, when the Seahawks pass rush got to him, he folded like a lawn chair. He was never the most mobile guy, and coming out of retirement to play after 5 years isn't going to help that. But, oh man, was it fun to watch Phillip Rivers play. And that Colts defense turned in an excellent performance against one of the league's best offenses.
For the Colts, that's really what you're more excited about, is that defense really turned in a great performance. And if they can do that, and if they can win out or pick up 2 wins, then it gives them a genuine shot at making the playoffs. Granted, with the Colts' remaining schedule, it's not going to be the easiest. I mean, they've got the 49ers on Monday night this week. Fortunately for them, it's at home, though. But then they've got the Jaguars. They've got the Jaguars in Indianapolis. Again, just still not an easy matchup. And then to close out the season, they've got the Texans in Houston. And if you're trying to win out in a really gritty AFC, that is a tough schedule to have to close it out. And the chances don't look great, and frankly, I think it will require a improbable rallying from the 44-year-old fresh off the couch. But we'll see what he looks like with a full week of practice under his belt, and I'm excited to see what he can put together, as well as the Colts for the rest of the season.
It would be, and I don't expect this to happen, but it would be really, really funny for old man, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers to go into San Francisco and upset, or even staying at home against San Francisco, and upsetting a Niners team that had no right winning 9 games this year with how many injuries they've suffered They've got 10? Oh my god, they won their 10th game this week.
If they hit their 10th win this week, the NFC West has 3 10-win teams right now. It is.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Eagles can lose out, and as long as the Cowboys lose at least one game, the 9-win Philadelphia Eagles will get into the playoffs.
Feeling a little bit like 2020 NFC.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, on the bright side, we are very, very likely to have finally broken the 20-year streak of not having a repeat winner in the NFC East. Obviously, there are 3 weeks left in the year, and there will be 3 chances for the Cowboys to lose and 3 chances for the Eagles to win. 3 good chances for the Eagles to win. We'll talk about that when we get to the games in the podcast. But man, it was fun to see Phillip Rivers play again. It was fun to see the Colts have a little bit of life. Unfortunately, he didn't quite play well enough for Unc Still Got It. But someone might have added a couple years to their career by moving to the interior. Eagles edge rusher Brandon Graham moved inside this week. The Eagles have been without Jalen Carter for the last 2 weeks. Carter was dealing with shoulder injuries all year, which is maybe why he hasn't been as productive. and has been out for the last 2 weeks after getting surgery on his shoulders to be as healthy as possible for a postseason run. So they kicked Brandon Graham inside, and he had 2 sacks. It's against the Raiders, but he should have had 3. There was a third Brandon Graham sack that was negated by a Cooper DeJean penalty. And he might be able to play until he's 40.
Yeah, Brandon Graham is only one of the few players that have come out of retirement so far this season, and this is not his first time winning. Unk still got it. He is a repeat winner now, and he was a very much so a large contributor to that shutout against the Raiders this Sunday. He played a great game, and who knows, he may continue his career after this season. The Eagles needed some help with the injuries on their defensive line, and Brandon Graham answered the call, came off the couch, and has put together some good performances this season. And so congratulations to Brandon Graham on our Unk Still Got It. Our big man of the week, we had Jeffrey Simmons from the Tennessee Titans. If you don't know who Jeffrey Simmons is,
shame on you, honestly.
Go watch some highlights. Jeffrey Simmons has quietly been one of the best interior defensive linemen over the past 3 or 4 seasons. And this week, he put together 1 sack, 7 tackles from the inside, 1 forced fumble, and
he caught a touchdown pass.
I mean, J.J. Watt.
I'm gonna have our editor put this clip up on screen. It's specifically the replay, because Jeffrey Simmons showed significantly better scramble drill awareness than any other Titans receiver has this season. And he's a D tackle. Cam Ward gets out of the pocket, and Jeffrey Simmons goes and finds a spot where nobody else is, and he catches a touchdown pass.
Maybe Jeffrey learned something from his time with A.J. Brown on his back in 2019 and 2020. So congratulations to Jeffrey Simmons, absolute game wrecker. Great game from Jeffrey Simmons with the big man touchdown. And on to our NFC Player of the Week. And this one saddens my heart a little bit, given I traded him in fantasy like 3 weeks ago. But Kyle Pitts put together a really, really great performance in that upset against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night last week. And he had 11 receptions for 166 yards and not 1, not 2, but 3 end zone scores, 3 touchdowns on the day. Just a great game from the tight end. I feel like the entire NFL fan base has been waiting for a Kyle Pitts game like this. I mean, he showed why he was drafted with a top 5 pick.
Just in time to get paid, too.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts' 4-year rookie contract, I believe they accepted his 5th-year option, but his 4-year rookie contract ends this year. Holy shit, man. I mean, we've seen the trend over the first 4 seasons. Oh, no, this is year 5, actually. So we've seen the trend over the first 4 years of Pitts' career where year 1 he scored once, year 2 he scored twice, year 3 he scored 3 times. He's up to 4 scores on the year. 3/4 of them came in this game against Tampa Bay. I don't really know what to make of that, honestly. But now he only needs one more.
I think next year he'd get 5. You know, pattern like that just tends to repeat itself. So I put the money on Pitts getting 5 next season.
Just exactly 5 touchdowns next season. And speaking of, is it also the 2021 draft class? Yeah, speaking of the 2021 draft class and players who have underperformed their draft positioning, 2021 first overall pick, the prince who was promised, Trevor Lawrence, 20 for 32, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air. And on top of that, 5 carries, 51 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. A 6 total touchdown game. against a very bad team. Don't get me wrong. The Jets are a very bad team. But this is what we've kind of been waiting for and just haven't seen, at least not consistently. And you look at disappointing first overall picks. Trayvon Walker gets brought up a lot. I don't think that's fair. I think Trevor Lawrence has been the more disappointing first overall pick in Jacksonville. And he showed why he deserved that draft pedigree on Sunday. And we all saw what the Jaguars saw in him from Clemson. We all finally saw some Clemson Trevor Lawrence in the NFL. And oh boy, did that shit feel good.
Season, I did not have a lot of confidence in the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags have made me put some respect on their name over the last few weeks, and especially over this last week. I mean, Trevor Lawrence absolutely took over this football game. So congratulations to Trevor Lawrence on the phenomenal performance, congratulations on the win, and congratulations on the AFC Player of the Week award. And our Coach of the Week, we've got two different Coaches of the Week this week. I've got Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, went into Arrowhead and played their dragon. They slammed the door on Kansas City's playoff hopes, and going into Arrowhead is not easy. And that has been proven over the last decade. It doesn't matter how good they're doing. It doesn't matter what their record is. Going into Kansas City is not easy. And they went in and absolutely had a phenomenal defensive game. Congratulations to Jim Harbaugh on a really phenomenal team win, and for playing your dragon.
And my Coach of the Week was Kevin O'Connell. We both like Kevin O'Connell a lot. We think he's one of the best head coaches, one of the best offensive schemers in the league. We both had Dallas winning on Monday night, or on Sunday night, in a pretty easy victory for them. And instead, Kevin O'Connell did me personally a huge favor by killing the Cowboys and making it so if they lose one more time, they are officially eliminated from the postseason. It would have been cool if the Eagles had beaten them when they were up 21-0, and the Cowboys and the Chiefs could have both died in the same week. That would have been really nice for me. Didn't work out that way. But Kevin O'Connell coached a hell of a game. J.J. McCarthy played a hell of a game. He threw an interception early, but outside of that, he was good. I mean, didn't target Justin Jefferson a whole lot, which I know pisses off a lot of fantasy managers. But good quality win for the Vikings that inspires hope for the future.
Absolutely. And I mean, J.J. McCarthy's still young. This is only his first season playing. It's only his second season in the NFL. Still struggling to find that consistency, but it's good to see a quality performance from him after being one of the worst statistical and one of the worst quarterbacks by every statistical efficiency metric in NFL history. It's good to see a quality performance from him. I'm curious to see how he looks in next season or the season after he's got a couple full, healthy off seasons under his belt. And I'm just excited to see it. And honestly, I just hope that he can achieve that quality of play that we think he can before the rest of the team kind of falls apart or slows down. But on to our last award of the week. We mentioned it earlier. Our chart of the week was the 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who only attempted one pass further than 20 yards and was intercepted. I mean, it is what you'd expect from a 44-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, especially one who hasn't played in the last 5 years. This is a very first game off the bench for an old backup quarterback game. That being said, he did throw a touchdown pass. And, of course, the interception killed it late, but Indy was up for a large portion of this game and would have been worse off with Riley Leonard at quarterback. I don't think the defense would have fought as hard. I think we could have looked at a true blowout if Riley Leonard had started at quarterback.
Yeah.
I just don't think that the Colts would have rallied around Leonard like they did around Rivers. And it'll be very interesting to see the Colts' final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Philip Rivers, granted, threw the interception that really killed it late, but he also put them into position to win by getting them into field goal position and going up by one. Unfortunately, Sam Darnold and the Seahawks said, nah. And then they ended up kicking I believe it was a 60-yarder for the win. But Philip Rivers did his job somewhat. We'll see what he looks like when he hits the weight room a little bit more and gets a full week of practice under his belt. And we'll see what this Indianapolis Colts team has to do. But,
I mean, in all fairness, it is the most Philip Rivers thing ever to lead a go-ahead drive late and immediately have your defense fuck it up. That is a classic Philip Rivers situation.
The awards and our headlines from last week across the NFL. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of our social medias are going to be in the description, as well as our main podcast for this week. So go ahead and give that a watch. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you don't watch the pod, we will see you next week.